What's up, everyone? Tyler here with Greer in the no cap space. And last night we had a late night news dump. It was like 1 a.m. Eastern, damn near, and the Team USA roster for the Olympics dropped. On that roster, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Alyssa Thomas, Nafisa Collier, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Sabrina Ionescu, Chelsea Gray, and Kalia Copper. Greer, just off rip, we're gonna dive into another name you see across this tweet, but general thoughts just on the makeup of this roster and the choices.
Kind of who I expected the pool of players to be. Obviously a ton is going to be made about Diana being on this roster and pursuing her 6th gold medal. Listen, it is what it is. Like, if you thought for a second she wasn't going to be on this roster, I have beachfront property to sell you in Idaho. Straight up. Concerning, I would say, is the fact that Chelsea Gray has not played in the WNBA season so far. So, the ramp up to the Olympics is going to be very swift for her. She's not a young player, you know what I mean? And she's coming off a lower leg injury that she experienced in the finals last year. So a little concerning there because she's the only true point guard on this roster. And if she's not ready to go, kind of what do you do? I do see a bunch of other guards who are obviously capable of initiating offense, but you want to be taking the point guard.
Yeah, period. Absolutely.
I want to be taking the player who I think, basically out of all these players, has just the highest basketball IQ. Right. So that's the only orange flag, I guess, I see with this roster. As far as the front court goes, BG, Asia, Brianna, this is not Tokyo 2022. Wasn't that? Or 2021? 2021, I think is when they ended up playing. Yeah. So if you remember that team, they were absolutely dominant in the front court. What they were doing, I had never seen all three of them play that way together before. It was insane. So I'm pretty confident that they'll be able to replicate, that going forward. And then I feel like the youngest player on this roster is Sabrina.
I think so. Yeah. And it's it's definitely the veteran presence is the
move. So if the patterns hold true about how they get minutes in the Olympics, Sabrina is she's not going to play.
Right.
So still a lot of questions, and I don't know that they've obviously it hasn't been officially announced. So Cheryl hasn't done her press conference, or the selection committee hasn't done gone through all of the things that it took to make up this roster. So I think there are still some questions, but again, Shams was breaking this at 1 a.m. last night. So this is not official, kind of.
Right. It was late. It was, I saw the Discord getting started and I said, I'm going to bed. I went straight. Tomorrow, for sure. It became a tomorrow problem very quickly. You do mention there, what went into the roster. We haven't got those answers yet. We just haven't heard that yet. One player not named Caitlin Clark, who we're going to dive into, but Arike Ogunbowale doesn't make the roster. I feel like is probably the first one off the board that I felt like was probably closest to making.
Well, I would even say Ariel Atkins and Skylar Diggins-Smith, who were on that team in Tokyo too, right? These are players who, at least Skylar, obviously coming back from pregnancy, did not play well in Tokyo. I think we can all admit that, but has USA basketball before. I think she probably didn't participate in any of the stuff leading up just to the pregnancy and stuff like that. But and then Ariel Atkins, just has not played well enough. In the WNBA to justify a roster spot. So even before you get to Arike, I think there, players who have been in the system, have played on this team before, who are not returning, who are still, pretty good, great WNBA players. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think Skylar Diggins-Smith is an interesting one, especially after we just mentioned the lack of point guards, natural point guards on this team. Skylar kind of feels like I don't know who I'm taking off for Skylar, just in the sense of having another true genuine point guard on the roster. Because right now, if Chelsea isn't Chelsea Gray level, you're looking to maybe Jackie Young, essentially what the Aces are doing right now to run that point guard position, which she could do, very capable of. Like you mentioned, there's probably pretty much every guard on that list is capable of being a point guard, but just not naturally in that position, especially compared to a Chelsea Gray or even a Skylar Diggins-Smith, in my opinion. But the biggest news about this entire roster is Caitlin Clark not being on it. That is, which I don't know, man. She would never say this, but I don't think she's gonna be too mad at a couple weeks rest. I don't like. Obviously, I'm sure that she wanted to go and compete, but like, listen, you can't be.
And honestly, like, a lot has been made. Like, if you are following this court, a lot has been made about like the powers that be and picking who they want. It could be a decision, like a business decision, to keep Caitlin home.
Yeah,
get her some rest so that she can finish out the WNBA season healthy, right? Like, the conspiracies kind of have to stop, right?
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to this young woman.
It's crazy.
The level that it's getting to is just crazy. It's not uncommon for young players to be left off of Olympic rosters. It's also not uncommon for them to take like the top college player coming out the year before on the roster. So we've seen, both. We've seen it both ways as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, I'm okay with it. Ultimately, I do think, the absence of a true point guard, if you have any questions about how Chelsea can perform or will perform, it's a little bit alarming,
For sure.
And also would not shock me. I don't even know how the whole alternate system goes in the Olympics, but it would not shock me if Caitlin was named as an alternate. It just wouldn't on the positional needs, you know what I mean? Because again, we haven't heard Skylar's name even be in the discussion. So it wouldn't shock me if I know she was invited to the camp that they had around the Final Four, but obviously couldn't participate. Her team was still playing. So they wanted to look at her. That tells me that they wanted to look at her. They wanted to consider her, but her own college career was going so well.
Suffering from success.
So she couldn't do it. But it's not totally uncommon. And the conspiracy theories about Caitlin Clark, like, just get off the girl's back. My God.
It's a lot. I think a lot of, at least just amongst the discourse on social media right now, a big aspect of why people and frankly the people saying this, I don't know their experience level within women's basketball. I just generally across the timeline here, so this might be giving more credit than deserved, frankly. But a big part of that was just the popularity aspect and how, like, just the eyes that Caitlin would bring to the Olympic team by being on it.
Is NBC pissed off? I want to know.
I mean, you know that they got.
You were trying to sell those subs, man.
Yeah, listen, man. So just as a basis for this decision, the criteria here for the Olympic team: availability, position played, playing ability. Obviously, as this tweet from Alex here says, popularity is not. This isn't a popularity contest. This isn't anything like that. However, you look at some of these when especially, like I said, as we keep kind of harping on the fact that they don't have any other point guard. Like I think, to your point, if Chelsea is not ready for the Olympics, like, Caitlin does kind of seem like, if not Skylar, I mean, it kind of makes sense, man. Like, when you especially looking at these kind of credentials here that you need to be on this team, like, I kind of think she fits it with the position played. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I
think so too. Again, I think that's why she was invited to the camp in the first place back in March or April or whatever it was. That's why she was invited. Obviously, extenuating circumstances made it so that she couldn't join them. But yeah, does she fit every single one of these? Absolutely. You know, she's still a young player figuring it out. But Tashani, you know, I have to big up my dog. Right now, she's averaging the same things that Sabrina is for her entire career. So, you know what I mean? Like,
listen, I know. Listen, man. So like that's. I mean, it kind of like, especially when you think about if what Sabrina is likely going to bring to this roster is spot up shooting,
and that's it. A little passing,
yeah. And frankly, if you need that, Caitlin can provide if that's the role that she needs to be in, while also providing the flexibility at point guard. But that's kind of my. I think like if you were to compare those two specifically, I would.
I mean, that's the last in my mind when I look at that roster, right? That's the last spot that's up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean,
like everybody, the 11 other players are locks.
Yeah, let's pull this back up. I mean, Asia, duh, Stewie, duh, DT ain't going anywhere. BG, duh, AT, duh, Fee, duh, Jewel, duh, like KP, Jack. Yeah.
KP played on the 3x3 team that won gold in Tokyo in 2021. So this is like the promotion, you know?
For sure.
Jackie Young, like you just cannot, also a former #1 pick, but you just cannot deny her play on both ends of the basket.
Yeah, it's exactly 100%. And I mean, especially if you're not considering the Chelsea injury aspect, that's the lot. I mean, that's the last spot is Sabrina's. Yeah. So, and like I said, I don't know, man.
Sabrina's the only one on this list. Also, if I don't know about Jewel specifically, and maybe KP. But okay, KP does have international experience. Jewel, I don't remember. But I feel like Sabrina's the only one. Okay, but Asia also already played in the Olympics. That we've never really seen her play against international competition. In Sabrina,
so?
Maybe
she's been on.
Maybe she was on the World Cup.
She was on the World Cup team, I believe. I think that's what I think because I know I've seen her in like a USA. So I think it was the World Cup. Yeah,
I can be fact checked.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sorry,
but you can't deny like the others. You can't deny the level
100%
of experience that they 100%. Have against international competition.
Yeah,
and having won too.
Right, exactly. Like this is, I mean, and that's what's also like must be stated about this. We're not talking about some redeemed team here. This USA team is like never lost. Like it's like literally damn near never lost a gold medal in the Olympics since women's basketball has been implemented into the Olympics. This is not a team that needs saving. This is not a team that is like or anything like that. So this Caitlin Clark would be like the parsley on this team. Like you're just like she's like a Ty Dolla $ign feature, you know, like you just sprinkling it on. Like this isn't a team that is desperate for Caitlin Clark. Could she be an addition? Absolutely. I think that there's like holes that she can fill on this team, but a need or a necessity, not that. Just not. And realistically, if she was on this roster, similar to kind of how you were saying with Sabrina, I don't think she's gonna be out there like she's not starting, you know, or like on this team. So even if she was to have been named to this roster, I don't think she's going out there and playing, 30 minutes in this game. It's just likely not going to happen. So there's interesting aspects to it. I do kind of want to bring this into a bit of a broader discussion just with the history of Team USA. Because I've seen several different comparisons across the board, both with the men's and women's side using as comparisons for this. One of these is Christian Laettner on the Dream Team is a comparison I've been seeing thrown around a decent amount. One big thing here, as David Aldridge says here, it was a condition to have Christian Laettner on that roster as part of getting. It was part of you had to have a college kid on the team to then have the NBA players. That was just how life worked then with Team USA.
It's 30 years ago, by the way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but no, it's always good to see, like, have context and like whatever precedent kind of has been set. But again, those are the NBA rules. This is the WNBA. And like, I don't know if like I don't know how many of our viewers, for instance, watch Team USA, specifically the women play, but they're really fucking good.
They're so
good. Now the rest of the world is really good also, because you remember that match
getting better, yes. Like
right, that game against Belgium earlier this year where Stewie just hit the tip in, and it was just like
it's like Team USA has been dominating, but the gap is increasingly getting closer. Like they still are far and away the favorites, but the gap it's not some foregone conclusion by any means either. Like as the rest of the world continues to catch up on the women's basketball side, so there's still games to be played. Like it's not you can't just give them the gold medal yet. But I do think it is interesting. Like I said, I'd seen this comp come across as like a player that hasn't really accomplished anything professionally yet, then be able to get on a roster.
Hey, she's been Rookie of the Month.
That's true. Sorry, let me not. But that was just an interesting kind of comparison I saw people making. And I think it's important to have the context of that having a college player was a requirement for the dream team, not really a choice. That was the bar, like that was the compromise there. But
then, I mean, also, if you want to talk about that or like other young players, right? I think you could have looked at Aaliyah Boston, who's also been in the
playoffs, right? Been in the
You could have looked at Ryan Howard, who obviously is now the 3x3 team, but like, you know, these are also previous number one picks who have played really well in the W so far in their young careers and definitely could have had a shot too. So
yeah,
there's just a lot of competition if you're a young star in this league.
There really is. And obviously looking way ahead, I think that this roster is just going to look completely different by next Olympics, you know, like this is like the last.
Which is gonna be all his.
No, really, like, and outside of them, I don't like. I think Fee could still be on there at that point, but like, there's several of these players that I especially like by the time this next go around comes, like, there's a lot of college talent coming in that will be, and even at that point, be multi-year experienced in the W at that point. So this roster, this feels like the last go around for a lot of a heavy chunk of these players. I also do, when it comes to broadening the context here, if you do feel like Caitlin Clark was snubbed, it wouldn't be the first time in Team USA history. We've seen questionable decisions in the past. I think most notably, and the one I've definitely seen the most across Twitter, is Candace Parker in 2016 getting snubbed, and never really, like, there was, to my knowledge, never really much of a reason for, like, literally just like it just felt very agenda based, frankly. Like, there's
the prevailing, conspiracy theory is that Gino Auriemma is the one that kept her off of that roster. Fast forward to 2021 Tokyo Olympics, it's them being left off of the USA roster. So again, if you've had stakes in women's basketball, you know that this is nothing new. And in those two cases specifically, we're talking about players who committed to Team USA and all of the preparation that goes into making the team, right? And still did not make those final rosters. So no one's ever been super transparent about like why those decisions were made. So we're just, giving you the background.
Yeah, frankly, I don't know how much explanation we're gonna get, or not necessarily like they have to give one for Caitlin. It's not like the explanation needed for Candace getting left off is very different than the explanation needed for Caitlin getting left off in this scenario, because we're talking like prime Candace Parker that's getting left off, and
a player who went on to win the championship.
Like we're talking Candace Parker. That ain't like, so it's definitely different scenarios in that sense, but just in the grand scheme of things, like with the larger context, as we're seeing people make comparisons to other players on the men's and women's side, I think it's just important to have that context, because like I said, this isn't the first time that, like I said, we've seen younger players more so on the men's side that get to come straight into the Olympic team, and we've seen on the women's side where players get egregiously snubbed. And I don't think that this is the case for that, but there's been decisions made in the past without explanation a lot of times. But to your point earlier that you made, one thing I do think is interesting, because she was invited to the Team USA camp, Caitlin Clark was, but during the Final Four in Cleveland, obviously she's still playing, so she doesn't get to go to that. And this was kind of an interesting quote from Cheryl Reeve, where it was like, I've never been in the trenches with her, not even at a USA basketball camp. Asking a coach to integrate someone who she has no history with, tournament with high stakes is a lot. I've never been in the trenches with her. And when you look at this roster and see, I think everyone has international experience. You're talking about older players here, like that have just been in the league longer.
Played all over the globe.
Exactly. Like has been overseas, like, which is another big aspect here is that if the overseas, that ain't no joke with the physicality. Yes.
We all so much has been made of the first 3 weeks of Caitlin's career and the physicality of the WNBA. International basketball is that times 10.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like
refs will literally look at you and tell you, put your big girl panties on.
No, like right to your face.
You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's two different games. And do I think that one day she can absolutely, play that game? Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But it's okay that it's not going to be in 2024 in Paris.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't hate, like, if Cheryl Reeve comes out like in the press conference or whatever and says, I went with the players that I trust. This is the Olympics. We're, like, this is as big as it gets for international basketball. Yeah. So like, if she's going with, hey, I'm going with the players that I trust, I don't hate that. Like, I understand the thought process behind that. I think people are gonna probably get in their, in the fan fiction bag a little bit because Cheryl Reeve was making tweets about Caitlin Clark in preseason about the attention and stuff like that. Right. I am not saying. I don't not until further notice. I ain't putting much thought into that yet or anything. I don't think there's some agenda at play here against Caitlin Clark. I don't think anything's like that. I had seen a little bit of that also on the timeline, just kind of scrolling before hopping on here. I don't think anything like that is going on.
And I even think about how difficult it's been for Caitlin to develop chemistry with her own teammates within the NFU so far, right? Like outside of Timmy, everyone else, it's been kind of touch and go or not great at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, so asking her to do that with, other professionals who have never played with her is just a lot.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
I don't think you're setting her up for success either.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I mean, like we kind of alluded to, like going into international play, I can't imagine going through a whole college season, jumping right into your W season where you're getting, like, not that she's being targeted. I'm not saying that. Jesus Christ, we're not saying that. But the defense has been legit. She's been the focus of the defense. She's getting the best defender on the perimeter every single night. And then you go and play international play, and you go through the Olympics, and where, like I said, we don't know. I wouldn't think that she would be getting a ton of minutes if she was on this roster. But like, still, like, just the wear and tear of everything, and just I can't even imagine how exhausted. Like I
got more win shares to play for.
Hello, we need to make. Can we make this part of the Rookie of the Year case? So like, how does this work? Like,
okay, so then also, what I do love about all of this, in the grand scheme, is that the WNBA All-Star Game is going to be held in Phoenix about a little over a month from now. It's going to be the USA Olympic roster versus WNBA All-Stars. I'm almost certain.
Caitlin's going to be on that All-Star roster.
She's going to be probably the top vote getter of the entire thing, honestly, right? So, and we won't do the thing like captains, right? There won't be. I'm assuming there won't.
I don't think so. I think it'll just be.
So it's just going to be her and the other 11 players that get selected, right? And like, you got a perfect time to tune people up and also prove to the world WNBA All-Star is a, becoming hopefully a global event similar to what the NBA All-Star Game is. And you've got a chance to prove that, like, oh, maybe I should have been on that roster.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, at the end of the day, fans are still going to get something great out of this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm looking forward to it.
And you know what the best part about All-Star being even more exciting now is that No Cap Space is going to have boots on the ground there. So make sure you guys stay tapped in across the board. Everything's in the description below. The Twitter, the Substack. here on the YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing and hit the bell, and the playback where we're eventually going to be watching games on there, and we go live on there as well to talk WNBA, college, all across the board. But make sure you're tapped in, especially for some boots on the ground action from All-Star. Like I said, it really is just about a month, a little over a month, like a month
like
and a week
weeks,
or so.
Yeah, like 5 weeks, something like that.
Give or take.
So voting should be opening here soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of that. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, make sure you stay tapped in across the board. Like I said, everything's in the description below. It's all free, so you don't miss out on anything from No Cap Space. And we'll see you next time.